Okay, at this time, we will call this meeting to order.
Recording in progress.
May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee DeBoer. Pfeiffer.
Here.
Walschlager. Here. Connor.
Here.
Hallquist.
Here.
President Fannerstill.
Here. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Trustee Hallquist.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, there will be the swearing in of Trustee Pfeiffer, who was just reelected and was not able to be at the last meeting due to business. Yep. And he will do his swearing in administered by our clerk, Sandy.
I, Adam Pfeiffer,
I, Adam Pfeiffer,
having been elected or appointed to the office of village trustee,
having been elected or appointed to the office of village trustee,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was for you. 'Cause you did a good job.
Thank you.
Congratulations on another term.
Then just go ahead and sign that.
At this time, we have public comments for anybody that would like to speak in public comment. Who's running Zoom?
Tanya.
Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to
Just
speak?
Ryan.
Okay,
Mr. Bailey.
So there's nobody on?
nope. All right, if no one wants to speak in public comments, we will move to our first item, which is a consideration of approval of the minutes for the April 13th, 2026 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 13th, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the April 13th meeting. Any discussion or correction to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I abstain.
That motion is carried. Now we have the consideration of vouchers for payment in the amount of $315,648.12.
Motion to approve vouchers in the amount of $315,648.12.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the vouchers in the amount of $315,648.12. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have discussion and consideration of Lake Country Flag Football User Group application and agreement. If you could just, even though we know, can you state your name and the organization you're representing, just so we have it for the record?
My name is Phil Hallahan. Oh, that's better. Great. Phil Hallahan.
Thank you.
Thanks. My wife and I started a flag football league for kids 5th, 6th, and then 7th and 8th grade, so 2 different divisions, specifically because our son was born with a brain malformation that required surgery, and he just can't play flag football or can't play tackle. It's just not possible. But he loves football and he's awesome at it, so we got him into flag. But it runs out after 4th grade in Hartland, and we said, yeah, you know what? There's probably a lot of kids that want to play. So my wife and I started a league. More successful last year than I expected. We had about 120 kids, and we're way ahead of schedule for starting in August. We were delighted to find out that you guys are looking to rent out Centennial Fields. And we presented to the group about 7 weeks worth of dates that we would like to rent the fields. Provided, I think, $2,500 worth of consideration that is somewhere. I think that you cash it once the agreement is signed and so forth. And then we went online, we created, I'm sure I'm gonna get the words wrong, but, some kind of a profile on there and then entered the dates and times, I believe that we would need. And that's kind of it. We're just trying to do something cool for the community, probably gonna grow. Spoke with Mr. Hallquist beforehand a little bit about our plans, and we're probably gonna need more fields, frankly. Not this year, but perhaps in the spring if we run a spring league. Those are touch and go because of the weather, but nonetheless, I think it would still be pretty fun.
Is this something that's gonna be a standalone, or is this gonna go through rec?
No, this is gonna be a standalone,
Standalone,
event that
okay.
he's running, so he's basically just renting, the field, soccer fields and the, football fields at Centennial. We got it figured out as far as how we can market out for them, worked on the dates, because one of the dates is kind of past our park opening, so he's gonna be getting, portable restrooms for that, time frame. And yeah, it was brought to the park board where he was last time. And was
And then
voted
we'd
on.
have the normal football field lines.
Sort of.
Yeah, no, it's different.
Yeah, it's
Smaller.
It's almost like if you chop the fields in half and then turned them. In order to get 4 fields, because of the number of kids we're gonna have, we have to essentially do a 50-yard field with an end zone, and then you only go that way.
Yep.
You know, and then kind of like the Brookfield place does that too, but.
I didn't know in our documents if we have something for lining that much of a field as opposed to just a baseball field, and if that's gonna make any
Yeah.
difference for DBW or how you're gonna handle that.
Yep, no, that was one of our big concerns that we had. He provided kind of paperwork documentation of what he needs laid out on the field. We've already set it up kind of on GIS, measured it all, and make sure it's gonna work. So 2 fields on the normal football field, and then 2 fields over in the soccer area of Centennial. So we got that all measured out and everything will work there, so.
The measurements will work.
Yep,
Is it gonna be the same amount of chalk? Is it just gonna be the same,
So-
is it gonna be the same fee as doing a softball field for lines?
it's gonna be the same as doing a normal football field. There's gonna be a lot less marking. It's not as intuitive as marking an entire football field.
Okay.
There needs less, basically. End zone, center field, and then the backfield, basically, is not as much. So that's kind of how we figured that out.
And then also for his expansion, possible expansion in future years, he could use the Pembroke outfield and then Hartbrook Park outfield as well. So that would fit for additional fields.
I'd like to see that being used more.
So we would need a vote to adopt the user group application, is that correct, to approve it?
Yeah, because it's new.
Okay.
I think this is outstanding, and it's nice to have another option other than tackle. I think this is great.
Thanks a lot.
I will make the motion that we approve Lake Country Flag Football User Group application and agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Lake Country Flag Football User Group application and agreement. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Great job, Phil. I like it.
Appreciate you guys.
Now we have a discussion and consideration to award the Village of Hartland Bridge inspection contract to Ayres Associates, Inc. for the amount of $10,500.
All right, so bridge inspections for our roadway bridges are required every 2 years. We're on that cycle, and every 4 years it's recommended that we do our park bridges as well. So you'll see in the bid or the proposal that both of those street bridges and pedestrian bridges are on there. Sought out 3 different proposals. Ayres was the lowest bidder at $10,500. We have used Ayres in the past for our bridge inspections, and that worked well with them. So staff recommends awarding the bridge inspection contract to Ayres Associates for the sum of $10,500.
Tom, on the newest bridges at Hartbrook, I think is the newest bridge.
Yep.
When do you get into the rotation of inspecting them? I mean, do they inspect them now? Or
Yeah.
because
Yep,
they're brand
yep.
new?
So he'll be inspecting that bridge,
Okay.
yeah. Just trying to keep all the park bridges on the same path, even though that one is new, just so it's a revolving 4 years as recommended.
And with it being new, it's probably good to put eyeballs on it just after it's been installed for a little while here, just to make sure everything's holding up as it's supposed to.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bridge inspection contract to Ayres Associates, Inc. for the amount of $10,500.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the Village of Heartland's bridge inspection contract to Ayres Associates, Inc. for the amount of $10,500. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of a third reading for a bill for an ordinance number 323, 2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 1 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to general provisions. This is a third reading and would not need a suspension of rules to vote on it. Or to adopt it, I should say. I apologize.
Minimal changes to this, Chapter 1. We removed the uniform citation, and then just had an addition of board, for village board approval under 1-20. Those are the only changes to Chapter 1.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance number 0323, 2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 1 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to general provisions.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 323, 2026, an ordinance amending Chapter 1 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to general provisions. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have a consideration of a third reading of a bill for an ordinance number 323, 2026A, an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to administration.
More extensive changes here. Torrin, you might want to address destruction of police records, rather. Most changes were to that area, and there were changes since your last meeting, since the second reading, that Torrin is proposing.
Yes, so the destruction of police records, we didn't really change anything in the fact that it's all the same as it was, other than there were some documents we no longer have with the police department that was incorporated probably when this was put in place, and I think it was 1990, early 90s, 91, 93, something like that. So we just removed some of those. There is a draft open records, record retention schedule that the state of Wisconsin's putting out specific to police records. I provided some input to that, but I have not heard where that is any longer with the state. There is some of these things I would like to change further just to align with what is best practice and common, but some of that, we have to do that by going to the state Public Records Board. And I wanted to not do that now and then have to do it potentially again with this state schedule coming out specific to police records. So we just kind of cleaned this up for the time being for records that are appropriate to the police department. And then the abandoned property section, we used, we have property room and inventory guidelines, and we use what the current best practices are and actually state statute. So we just kind of kept it simple and used some of the state statutory language under Chapter 170 and State Statute 66. And then what this allows to do that we didn't really have at our, as a resource, was we find a lot of property that is not in the greatest shape, was found maybe in the park for quite some time. We followed the 90-day abandoned property rules, we post it. But then we wanted to be able to have an ability to dispose of property that is basically not worth trying to sell because there's no value really to it, and or if it's hazardous, like we find a gas can on the side of the road, I don't want to have that in my property room for 90 days, preferably just because of the hazardous nature of it. So that allows us to do some of those things with that. Otherwise, it's basically just following the state statute, which keeps it very simple. Oh, and abandoned weapons and ammunition, we do that through disposal to the state crime lab under chapter 96820. So just kind of codifying all that together.
So this is the third reading, so if you choose, this could be approved as well.
I'll make a motion then to approve ordinance number 3-23-2026-A, an ordinance to amend chapter 2, Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to administration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt, after third reading, the bill. Oh, go ahead.
Good evening. In getting ready to come, I went through the agenda and I realized that there was one provision of our ordinance which was affected by legislation that was enacted at the beginning of this month. And that's the public bidding requirement in section 2.286. The change was made from the old number to 25,000, which is now the old number. And the thing that I am handing out to you is a copy of Wisconsin Act 188. And if you'll turn to the second page, section 16, which is an amendment of the mandatory bidding procedures for cities, which are applicable to villages also. And in section 18, the new minimum bidding requirements, in other words, for general public construction contract bidding, the project's got to be $50,000. For general public construction notice, just to notice that it's happening, $10,000. For public highway construction contract bidding, $25,000. For public highway construction contract notice, $5,000. So I would recommend that a trustee make a motion to amend section 2-286 to substitute the number 50,000 for the number 25,000 to be in accordance with this particular new statute. Any questions from anyone?
Verify again exactly where he wants those numbers.
Section 2.286? Okay, then I'll make a amendment to my motion to include section 2.286 and make the adjustment for the general public construction contract bidding of 25,000 to now follow suit with the new changes to 50,000.
I will second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. The
Thanks,
same
Hector.
motion's on the floor. It's just added with the section 2.286 change that's been just sent down from our wonderful state government. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. That is adopted, including section 2-286. Now we have consideration of a reading, consideration of a first reading of a bill for an ordinance 427, 2026, an ordinance amending chapter 18 of the Village of Hartland Municipal Code pertaining to building code.
We did jump to chapter 18 because our building inspector will be soon retiring, so we wanted to get his changes through while he was still here. And these are proposed as recommended by our building inspector.
Again, this is a first reading, but if anybody has changes from reading through it that they want to add or discuss, feel free to bring them up so that those can be made. obviously you can call with those also throughout the week or the weeks between meetings. Does anybody have anything at this time that they want to add to that or change or ask about? Again, emails can be sent and, oh, go ahead. Judge Attorney, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a section, I believe, towards the end that talks about electrical code. And the text of that section has been entirely deleted, but no substitute language has been inserted. And I didn't have time to double check the gap there. So I would just point that out for the second reading.
Yeah, and his instructions were delete entire section 18-126 and 127, but I will follow up with him as to reasoning in that.
Sure.
If there's no changes, we'll consider that a first reading. Again, feel free to reach out on those things. Is that good with everybody? It's first reading? Okay. Now we have an item, this is, I'm bringing this up for general discussion, and I want to clarify, just because there's some information that's in the packet, or in the packet. I'm bringing this up for general discussion. The only reason that anything says consideration on here, or at least what I'm asking, is that the only consideration would be if the village board wanted to say, yes, let's start moving in that direction, even though there's like a sample of what a ordinance would look like, but it would be like, yes. So this would not be any first reading. I just want to make sure that it's clear that I'm bringing this up for, or that I put it on the agenda for general discussion. One of the things that I wanted to bring what I wanted to bring forward with this, and you'll see in the agenda that there's some things that just kind of list stuff about park board and things like that. And, you know, I spoke with Tim about it some, and did speak with Hector about it some. And I'll let Hector speak briefly, but kind of asking, you know, where'd the board originate from? What's the intent of it? That kind of thing. And just kind of finding out, you know, how much necessity do we have? You know what I mean? We have a board that's meeting where we have DPW and rec go to those meetings. They do talk about stuff and they decide stuff, but I know now in the village, it's just staff just takes care of a lot more, because when the park board was created, there just wasn't staff, or there wasn't staff involvement like there is now. Along with that, and kind of finding out about the history of it, Hartland was much smaller. I want you to take you back to like 65, 67, 69, somewhere in those years. There's a lot of subdivisions and a lot of land that Hartland didn't have yet. And so at that time also, they didn't have an administrator. I have no idea what the size of the police department was. I'm sure the fire department was probably twice the size, because there were so many more volunteers at that time, to be honest. That's probably true. But in all, just in being serious, there was, the board was created and the commission was created. If you read through the ordinance, that said, no flower shall be let or removed, no tree shall be let or removed. And, you know, park board has full control over the parks, because at that time we had subdivisions that were coming online, and you had people that had to look at what park equipment do you want, what park lands, how much of this development should be park. And in those days, a lot of times they forced the developer to put parks within that development, whether it's Hartridge or, you know, various different ones. But so we were up and coming and growing, where now the parks are there and they're a lot more self-sufficient, meaning staff takes care of almost all maintenance of those parks, whether it be emptying trash, mowing grass, cutting down dead trees, removing trees, planting trees, putting flowers in, all of that stuff. They do a lot of the planning that has to do with certain things. So without being too long-winded, I'll open it up. I want to have the discussion. I do want to allow Hector to just give a brief, because we talked about it, but historically it was there because you had these new subdivisions going on, and you had someone that was planning a whole park from what's right now a farm field, and it's going to end up being a development where there's going to be park or 2 or 3 in that development. We're no longer at that position. So one of the things to give kind of an end of where this is leading is, is it something where there's a lot of redundancy happening? And like I asked myself the question, what will not be accomplished and what cannot be done if not but for having a separate park board? And what happens if, when it comes to planning on the park board, whether it's fields or the most recent that I can think of, the Nixon Park parking lot, when that was done, Rupert and Milky had to look at that. That went through park board, figuring out parking. Folding that portion of it, so there technically would be, still be a park board, but it would fold under plan commission. Plan commission already does the planning for the whole rest of the village. And then just folding it under there, but staff takes the majority on, as they are, of park rentals, pavilion rentals, maintenance, all that stuff that they're already doing. So I'll let Hector give his brief, and then, I just want to open it up for discussion, and then for us to discuss it.
Sure. Just like you considered the earlier items to amend Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of your ordinances, Hartland is now in a position where it should be looking at all of its ordinances to update them. And the question that occurred to me was, does Hartland have a legal obligation to maintain a park board? And not having dealt with that issue, we dug into it, and it's a permissive thing. Villages can have a park board, but are not required to do so. And as has been alluded, Hartland, in my opinion, has gone through a transformation where typically under Chapter 236, the approval of a subdivision, part of the consideration that the developer needed to take into account was recreational activities and establishments of parks. Now, the kind of development that you have is basically redevelopment of properties or the development of non-traditional properties such as the quarry, redevelopment of properties such as, for example, the hotel proposal that you have before you. So, concluding that the village can get along without a park board, I also felt that the needs in that area could be met adequately by the professional staff that the village has, which a lot of communities do not have. And a lot of these are administrative decisions which require familiarity with the immediate subject area rather than high-level policy decisions. However, with regards to land use, for example, acquisition of more land for parks or dedication or utilization of parking areas, for example, reconfiguration of the recreational areas. The research that I did led me to conclude that the Plan Commission should be involved. Not that they have the final word, but they should be referred anything involving land use before it comes to you, and you ultimately have that responsibility with a recommendation from the Plan Commission. I have submitted a memorandum and a proposed ordinance, which, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to respond to.
We'll just open it up for discussion, and then if you... Tim, do you have anything, being the park board chairman, president, that you wanna, that your thoughts are?
Yeah, I have a few. First of all, how many Hartland residents are on the Delhart? I mean, Hartland residents, not trustees.
Oh, Hartland?
Hartland residents that aren't trustees. Two? Okay. Okay, so, and I'll get to that point first. With the library board, there's 3. Planning commission, there's 4, and the PFC is 5. And now, Delhart is, what'd you say, 2? Okay, so that's 14 total residents that would be outside of the village board that that we would like to have transparency with the citizens and input from the citizens that the president appoints. So if you eliminate the park board, that would be 6 more people that would be eliminated. And their input would be no longer required. You have, the planning commission would lose a voting member, because if I read this right, there's 6 voting people and 1 non-voting person for 7. So you would have 6 people on that planning commission that would vote. And I'm assuming a trustee and a president, so you would have 4 residents there. And I'm talking about input from citizens that aren't on the village board. So I'm just trying to create, if we want more transparency throughout the village and more input from village residents, we're kind of going about this the wrong way. We've eliminated, through no reason, I guess, we've eliminated and disbanded the ARC board way back when, right? It's now ARC and Plan. We've eliminated the ECOS, which also had volunteer members. As far as redundancy, our lawyer just said, not that the planning commission has the final word, but it would come to the village board. So in other words, there's redundancy as well. So that would be an argument that Jeff just brought up, that the planning commission, or the park board is redundant. So there's still gonna be redundancy with the planning commission. Let's see, what else do I have? As far as, if anybody brings up saving money, I don't think that's a point. Maybe $3,000 a year that we're saving. I think that's about, I think we could possibly be creating a monopoly, whereas the village board would have final say on everything. And I would want the input from our citizens. Obviously, we took their word when we were talking about the location for the police department. So, that's all I have to say.
I do want to, just to clarify on something that you said, that there is still an architectural board, and it is defined when we go through plan commission, meaning if it's an architectural board item, it's just that it's a joint board and a plan commission that's just the same members. Because architectural stuff a lot of times comes up 1 to 3 times a meeting, sometimes none for 2 meetings. So does anybody else have any, I don't want to just turn it into just rebuttaling to Tim. So and I already spoke. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add on that?
I'm still for the park board, and I guess I look at it from one perspective is, what are we known for in Hartland? Our parks, right? Our surrounding areas have lakes. We don't have that luxury, but we brag how much the parks are. There's people that come from outside communities that love our parks, the baseball fields, things of that nature. So from that perspective, I kind of feel that we should have a committee for something that is that highly sought out and we're proud to have. And to Tim's point, I agree that allows some of the citizens that are not non-elected officials to voice their opinions as well. Redundancy, and I don't know, this might be a legal thing, but like tonight we had the gentleman here for the flag football. We'd already approved it, so from a redundancy, is there a way we can do it that he wouldn't have to come in front and present it to the board again? Could Tim, as the president, give a recap every meeting of what's transpired at the board meeting and what was approved by the park board to the rest of the board members, and if everybody's fine with it, hey, not a problem. If somebody has a problem, said, no, I want a little bit more details, then could that be where the gentleman might have to come in to get a little more clarification? But that might reduce some of the redundancies to have somebody come and present to us at the park board, but then turn around at the next board meeting and present the same thing again. So that's just off the cuff some of my thoughts.
Anyone else have anything they want to add?
Well, I'm on the park board as well, and there is a lot of redundancy. I can agree with what Rick is saying. And also examples of like, what was it, the yoga, Kids Fest, all of those things that we've had for 10 years or 5 years or whatever, having to come to the park board, come here, there's a lot of redundancy, plus staff having to hear the same thing over and over again. But I guess the second thing is I'm glad that Hector is here to help assist with that kind of thing with the board, but shouldn't there be a little bit, does there need to be like first, second, third readings on this, or is this something that?
There would have to be, because
right.
it's, like tonight's just discussion.
Okay, that's, I
There
just
would
want to make
have
sure.
to be readings because it changes the ordinance.
Yep,
It demands an ordinance change.
yeah. Important part, but I'd like to know what do you guys, Tom, you're at every meeting, Sam, you're at every meeting.
Yeah, no, I'll come in front of whichever board. I mean, if it moves over to planning commission, if it's at park board still, whatever it, may be. I mean, it really doesn't matter to me, as far as that goes, so.
I agree.
Tim, you used the word monopoly. Maybe that's going a little too far. Because it's in our best interest as a village board to listen to the citizens of Hartland and to be the eyes and ears of the community. We've got 3 village trustees on the park board today, right? So those same 3 trustees are going to be hearing and thinking through decisions that we're going to ultimately have to make on something related to the parks. So I just do see some redundancies. I think that we always need to keep our ears, discussions available and open with the citizens of the village of Hartland. So has it served its purpose? Do we need the park board moving forward? I don't know. You guys are on the park board and you feel it does have its purpose. Shantae, I don't know if you feel the same way, but we're still having the department heads involved with decisions that come up for future changes or future discussions that might involve DPW or rec. So I think we got the same minds and bodies involved with it. So it's just my thought.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, the village sure has changed a ton since park board was put in place, and the reasons why it was put in place when it was. Obviously, it's a completely different scope now than what it used to be. Still very much involved, and obviously, it's been important and has been used for this, since its existence. But I think of things like the goat yoga, things like that, they shouldn't have to go back in front of park board. They should go to staff. Like, look, they've been doing this for the last 8 years or whatever it's been. Go to staff, fill out the forms, come here, we bless it, they move forward. If it's something that's been in existence, why should they have to go to a park board and then come to our board? Like, that seems redundant. I don't know that we've got the crystal ball ability to see everything that we might not be thinking about, but I've been thinking about this since it came up on the agenda, and I do think it's worth exploring, because, to your point, Tom, we've got 3 members on that board that are on this board. The people from the village that are on the board were appointed by one person on this board, and I guess I don't see there being a huge advantage to having a couple more residents there. We were all elected by the residents of the village to make decisions for the village. As far as monopoly is concerned, Tim, to that point, the buck stops with this board anyway, regardless if the park board's there or not. We are the ones that make the final call. So I don't know. I think it's worth looking at and exploring for sure.
So I do, with those things being said, I do, I had brought it forward for discussion. I do think it's a good idea. We've had some things, and obviously some of them I don't want to say publicly, but just to go on some of the comments we've said, like, at least the comments that I've heard, I don't personally believe that you need to only be on a board in Hartland. I don't care what board it is, to have your voice heard. If that was the case, then we got a really messed up thing and we need to create a heck of a lot more boards, but I don't think you just need to be on a board. Number two, like to Rick, to your point, when you're saying maybe we can just have it stop, I do, Adam, what you said, that's state law. The village board runs this entire, the park board exists simply to give us advice, period. It is not like, I mean, the village board could try to do that, but even that would be outside of state law, because we're elected to represent the village, so we couldn't do that. We couldn't say, no, it can just go to park board, and if whatever they decide just automatically goes.
No, what I
without
was
it
saying
coming.
is, he could give a recap of what it was from a redundancy. We still vote, but we don't need to bring the individuals in here because they already were brought to us and.
Right, and like for being on the what I would say is then they just don't need to go to park board, they can just go right in front of us, and that's what I'm kind of getting to with the that you'd be backwards.
The
They
other
would
thing
come
too,
to
I
the-
guess, look at just from that, we have time in our park board meeting to discuss in depth. I don't know that, here we want to go into a 20-minute dissertation or half an hour like we do there on one particular entity here. And there again, I'm not on the planning commission, but I know those are pretty extensive meetings. So why do we want to add another layer on that I'm told they're sometimes 2.5 hours long. So do we want to add another half hour to hour onto that 2.5 hours?
Well, can you give some examples of these things that were discussed that take up so much time that are gonna hold these meetings?
Well, I'm
up
not
so
saying
much?
everything takes up. I'm just
Well,
saying.
no, but I mean, what extensive, and that's where my what extent, or can staff, what extensive things have been discussed that are so ingrained or in-depth? Because staff usually deals with all of that. And then the really in-depth stuff, staff kind of deals with all of that already. The most in-depth thing that's happened was the beer garden and the food trucks last year, when that was brought back up at the park board after it was already at village board.
No, I was just saying, in our meetings here, I don't know that I don't know that it's right to sit here for, even if it's a 15-minute thing on every entity. There's a lot of things we go through, and in 2 minutes, we've approved them. If they have to go through the in-depth things and explain it here, I mean, I take it that the purpose of the park board or any board is to kind of condense it down, bring it in, and we just need to see, at our level, see the high points, make a decision, yes or no, but all the nitty-gritty stuff can be done in a board meeting.
And what I'm trying to say is, we now have staff that covers that.
Well, I get that, but, okay, so personally, I work a lot of hours. I get my packet on a Wednesday or maybe a Thursday. I don't have time to call anybody to talk to them before I come to the meeting here, so I'm coming in blinded with this and have to make a decision because I don't have time to do it. I don't have that luxury as a pharmacist, so I'm working 10-hour days. So it's tough when you come in here and sometimes we get snapshot and make a decision. Where with a board meeting, and that's why I like to be on it, but a board meeting, you get to worked out, condense down, bring the condensed in here.
I don't know if I can provide I mean, I don't want to get into an argument. If
No, I'm
you
not.
don't have time to look at the packet and call and do that kind of stuff, that's your call. I don't.
No, I'm just saying that sometimes I think we put things on the meeting, like that. I get it, oh, this is something new, never heard of it before, but I gotta vote on it on Monday. I think sometimes we need more time, like something should be put on a packet or agenda that we get time to do our due diligence where we don't always get. I'm not saying just this in general, but this topic, but in general, sometimes I look at it, okay, this is new, okay, now I got so many days to get it done before I come in here and vote, where I think some things of magnitude, which this is good this time, because my interpretation was that we were gonna vote on it tonight, and a couple other trustees thought the same thing.
Well, the only vote, or the
No, I
only
know.
vote I've requested would vote to keep on going, and okay,
Digging
we'll
into
look
it,
at a first
right.
reading next time.
No, I get that.
This is just
Yeah,
discussion.
I just, like I said, main thing is, since we're so proud of our parks, I think we should have if we're gonna have a board, why not have it where something that is, something we're proud of doing and
Right, and
have input.
the
That's
parks,
my thing.
the parks are fantastic.
Right.
They are fantastic. Like, and I, I don't want it to be a fight, so I'll just come out. I didn't want to do this publicly, but I'm going to say some of the reasons I'm really doing it, because we open up different things. But like, when I was first elected, and the park board does a great job picking equipment and stuff like that. But in talking with some of the members, a lot of it is just discussion on things that are coming up that may not even need to be at that level, maybe should be at the staff level. We have tons more staff than we have had before, and I'm hearing a lot tonight. But like when it comes to the ballasted lights that were put in, that stuff was taken care of by DPW, and I know because I had suggested it just on a small portion. It was like, hey, let's run the whole thing. I'm not saying like this is the Jeff show. I'm simply talking about stuff I know where I gave a suggestion. Staff did all of it. When I was first elected, the outfields of the baseball fields, this is what the players were telling me, looked absolutely horrible. And so I went and I looked at them. There was huge broadleaf weeds in the outfields. And there was a huge lip around the outfields. And so I went to DPW and I went to the current administrator at the time and talked with them. And I'm like, you guys, we got to start spraying people are saying this. They're paying for these fields. They say our fields used to be great. Let's start and it turns out it wasn't that anybody was trying to do anything wrong. But people were scared that they might upset the one person that gets upset if we spray for weeds. And I'm saying we had an entire board in place that never came up with that. Not because they're not smart, but because they get scared to move. So what I'm saying is this needle isn't getting moved towards perfection by having this larger board. For 2 years, I said, can you please stop talking about waiving fees at that level, because that's a village board decision. And it's not that anyone was doing anything wrong. It's that people get apprehensive, because one thing I do know about being in this position, no one's around to talk to. If everything's hitting the fan, it's like, you want to talk to that guy. But if everything's going good, we're all clicking together. What I'm just trying to say is I'm trying to do what I think is better for the village board. And we've had some serious problems that no one really wants to admit. Last year, what went on when that went back to park board over that beer garden and food trucks was horrible, in my opinion, for the village of Hartland, for a business that is out of business now. That was horrible, and it turned into a fight because a member of that board had a vested interest in a financial gain in pushing it, and no one would say stop. I think it's time that the large decisions when it comes to planning fold under the Plan Commission, simply so it's an avenue that those things can happen when it's going to be a big thing that take more time. All the trustees are getting paid around $7,000 a year, and I'm getting paid 10. So I'm never going to complain whether I got to be here for 4 hours or 2, because 90% of this is volunteer. But, we are getting paid something for our village. But people get paid on these committees. So yes, I have sat through questions on as low as $4.53 on vouchers, where we'll talk about them and pull stuff to see why that cost is. But now all of a sudden $3,000 is a no-brainer. It doesn't matter. I'm not doing this to save money, but I'm saying it doesn't hurt. All I'm saying is I'm bringing something forward that I actually think is in the best interest for our board, mostly because we saw some signs of how bad it can get last year. Not with the president, I'm saying just with certain members, if they decide they're gonna use that and hijack that board. But we have staff that truly is the ones doing everything. And I've asked for examples saying, well, what things were all this in-depth where it wouldn't happen? Every single time I ask that, I'm not getting anything. I have not gotten an example yet, not from staff and not from the members of the board to say, well, if you don't have this. So people can decide. I would like to see it move forward, but I'm not bringing it forward because I'm trying to start a fight. I'm trying to bring it forward because it leads to efficiency. It unhandcuffs not only our staff, but our citizens. There's been times where people have called, they want to do a birthday party. They want to have a bounce house at that pavilion that they're renting out. Oh, wait, we got to call Digger's Hotline. You have to be to a park board meeting, and then you got to be through the village board. You need 5 weeks, but your birthday party's in 3, you're not going to make it. Now, have we decided that on the fly and done it? Yes, but right now, the way it's written, people can't. I'm saying it handcuffs us a little bit. I honestly think the things I'm hearing, it's like the only reason to fight to keep it in place would almost be more so saying and I do agree with you, Tim, of saying, well, we just want to have a board and pay for a board. And and have it be that we just have this board just so other people get to go and be on it. We have 10,000 people that are able to tell us information. I don't think to have a board created as a village board where staff, think about we're saying that, and we look at our staff and we're like, and you gotta be there every week or every month. You gotta go be there just because we wanna have this just so that we have it. I don't think that's the right reason to have a board. There was a commission that was created that served a purpose, and that full commission is no longer needed. Just like there used to be an architectural board when they were building so fast that it was needed, and they folded it under plan commission. It's not a monopoly because this board is the only board that's in charge at all. There ain't no mayor here in Hartland. There's a village president who votes with the board, and we bring stuff to each other, but if anybody has any other questions, they can. I really do think that this is a smart thing to take forward. I've tried to, express what I've seen happen. I honestly think the only reason to really go against this for our staff, for our citizens, I don't think it affects the citizens at all, unless you guys just want to have a board. ECOS, Tim, to your point, I did bring forward, ECOS was a task force. We made, and I'm not trying to put this like the Jeff show. I said, hey, people want to see this. They want to take care of open corridors, and open spaces that are not part of a park. So I created as an actual board, gave it a $10,000 budget, put people on that board. One year they did some stuff and used the budget. They asked DPW to do a ton of work. They had a $10,000 budget and they're using like $300 of it a year. And now the board is no more because they weren't doing anything. They would just meet because it was meeting just to meet. They weren't deciding on anything. It wasn't constructive, maybe that's the best way. It existed so someone could go around and be like, I'm on ECOS, I'm on the ECOS board, but it wasn't constructive. They were not even using the budget that was created so they could go get rid of Buckthorn and Pembroke or do things like that. So I'll stop it there. I'm just saying there's a lot of reasons that it doesn't seem that there's this major, extreme need for having the park board, because I have not even gotten one example of this major thing. I'm not saying the park board doesn't decide anything, they do. But I haven't gotten this any major thing that between staff, mostly staff, that the appropriate action isn't gonna be decided on, and everything they do still has to come through village board. So we're all still gonna be deciding on it, so.
One of the things, Jeff, that I was kind of curious about how it would work and how we would represent the parks in general, that I saw in the sample ordinance that was sent out was that we'd have one of the 4 citizen appointees would have the interest of operations of Parks and Rec. Like that would be like their responsibility on that plan commission. And I think that that's a cool way to make sure that the parks are still represented.
It wouldn't be their only responsibility. It would be that person has some want and desire.
Vested interest.
Yes,
And, yeah.
like you wouldn't want someone that's like, I just want to see all of downtown built up. I don't care about anything else in Hartland. You wouldn't want to put them in there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it looks like that person would be potentially there for a longer period of time, kind of a
It's
position.
gonna be a 3-year term,
Yeah.
it would become a citizen appointee. Well, okay, so you're talking about a plan commission. Right now, the park board commissioner goes in that position. It would become a citizen appointee position. And then, but yes, so that citizen would have a vested interest in, I shouldn't say vested because I can get it, but yes, it'd be a person that is interested in, you wanna lean that way.
Yeah.
But yes, to answer your question. The stupid duo.
Okay, let me comment to some of your aggression here. First of all, you mentioned outfield grass in the baseball fields. First of all, if no one approaches me or the park board about the problem, we don't know about the problem. Obviously, you're the president, so you get probably inundated with phone calls quite frequently. As far as your comment of we're scared to do anything, I kind of, no comment. The ballards that you mentioned, that was with donated money, is that correct?
No.
Yeah, it was.
The Ballards
Yeah.
was built with all donated money?
Well, it was with that, it was impact fees.
Yeah, but it wasn't donated money.
Well, it didn't cost us anything. I mean, it costed impact fees, but we didn't ask for anybody to donate money. I mean, it was
Well,
there.
yeah, no, we didn't ask for anybody to donate. We used village.
And I'm not so sure that even came to the park board for a decision.
It didn't.
why didn't it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would have to ask Dave Falco.
Okay, so I'm just saying that there's some things that you're pointing the blame with the park board that we weren't even aware of and it never came to us, so. And then as far as, how many food trucks are in the parks now?
None.
Okay, so what did the park board do wrong because food trucks? There aren't any in there, right? Yeah, you just said that.
No, I didn't say the park board.
said we had no
I just said a
guts.
member. I didn't say the board.
You said we had no guts about food trucks in the beer garden, and that, first of all.
No. That's not what I was referring. You're taking it way out of context.
I'm just, I have it in quotes, no guts. So, okay, well, that was just my comment. I'm not trying to get personal here, but you went that way, so.
You can consider it aggression. I'm just trying to
I'm
do
not
what I
doing
think
aggression.
is
I'm
best.
just
not-
replying to
The
you.
bollards, I mean, you're saying, I mean, I don't want to fight about it, but you're saying, no, that was donated money, and then if you consider impact fees donated money, I mean, I
Well,
wouldn't
what's the
consider it donated
definition of
money.
impact fee? What-
An impact fee
we
is
can
money that a developer pays.
But we can spend it on what?
We can spend it on infrastructure in our
Something
parks.
that we don't have?
Yes.
Okay. And
But
we
I
didn't
wouldn't
have
consider
ballots.
that donated, but my opinion would be not consider that donated money.
Well, it wasn't budgeted money.
It wasn't budgeted money.
I guess that's what I meant.
Yeah, okay. We can go, however, I do think that it's a good idea to move it forward. I'm not trying to be aggressive, but I didn't consider it aggression, and it tends to be taken that way every time I just lay out my reasons for things. I've been sitting here, I have not gotten an example, and to the entire park board, I wasn't saying they did anything bad for the fields. I was simply saying that it was able to be done, and it wasn't being done before, so I was showing examples saying, so just because there's a park board doesn't mean that everything is getting taken care of in the parks that possibly people in the village want. That's all I was saying. That doesn't mean the park board is bad. I'm saying it wasn't getting done. And with the bollard lights, I was showing exactly what Tim said. The bollard lights went in from one end all the way to the firehouse, all the way down by the path that goes onto Cottonwood, and it didn't go through park board. So my point is, can someone give me an example, number one, for me anyway, of something that's so in-depth that it has to have a park board? And if not, what is the need to have that board? Why is it even a big deal if it's folded only for major decisions that it would be under plan commission? Plan commission is not going to be park board. Staff is going to be taking care of most things because the ordinance is now rewritten. That ordinance, honestly, almost matches very closely to the 1969 ordinance. It did not change, or Sandy, it didn't change very much from what was written in 1969 to what's written now. I'm not trying to step on toes here. I only, if there's a reason to have it, let's have it. When we created ECOS, we thought there was a reason to have it. People said they were going to do this stuff. They were going to get volunteers. This is going to be great. We gave them a $10,000 budget so they could do stuff, eradicate buckthorn and other things. They didn't use it, so we got rid of it. I just don't think it's necessary to keep a park board in place just to keep it in place. I'm not crapping on park board nor taking away from the time that people have spent when they go to those meetings and that they really want to make a difference. I'm simply saying, do you want to take and have a board simply just to have a board? And if not, can anyone tell me what necessitates having the board? Those are the examples. That's all I'm asking. I don't think I'm doing something wrong by bringing something forward and evolving with time,
I have a question for either DPW or Parks. How many hours a year would you say you spend at the park board meetings and preparation for the park board meeting?
There's 12 meetings a year, once every Monday of the month. Preparation time is kind of just getting everything kind of together, putting either proposals together or meeting with like Philip tonight here, getting the whole layout of the field, schedules and stuff like that, getting that That's really hard to put a number behind, you know, depending on how busy a park board meeting is compared to park board meetings that haven't been busy. But I would say anywhere hour to 2 hour intervals for those park board meetings is, do you have anything other than?
No, I would, yeah, it depends on what's on the agenda.
Yeah, and I mean, if, like towards budget time and stuff like that, you guys know that takes longer and stuff like that. If we're looking at, you know, jungle gyms, or if we're, you know, the Nixon Park ball field stuff with the fences that we just did, or the turfist that we just added, getting all those contractors together, kind of having an informed decision, or having an informed amount of information to kind of, you know, same thing I do when I prep for this meeting. You know, what kind of questions are you going to ask me? What should I know about the facilities that we have? You know, age, you know, when's the last time we did this? You know, what did it cost then? What's it costing now? Stuff like that. That's really hard for me to throw out, because it's an email here, 3 or 4 days, someone gets back to me, or I have to call them 5 or 6 more times for them to give me a number, you know, stuff like that. So it's really hard for me to quantify that.
Just trying to gauge, if there was not a park board, how much time would that give you back to allocate that time to other things that keep you busy in your roles?
If I could add to that, if that's okay. Or if there's not a park board, is that gonna add more to your plate? Or do you see it as, you're gonna be doing these things anyway?
I don't think it would be more time to my plate, because I'm still going to do the same amount of prep. There might be some questions in park board that hit me and I don't know the answer to, that I might be more prepared for at village board meeting, because I wasn't thinking that way. You know, when someone asks that questions, hey, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you. You know, kind of, and that can happen even at this meeting. You know, one of you guys could have a different response to a question that I don't know, and I have to do some research and find some stuff out to get back to you. So, yeah.
I would just add, Dee Dee, I know, does the agendas. That's probably an hour a month, and then the minutes, I would estimate at 2 hours a month. So a total of 3 for her.
About 7 staff hours a month.
Yeah, but Tom would have to do, he's gonna have to do the same amount of time. If we didn't have the park board, he'd still have to do all that work for us anyway. So, and once he's done it once for the park, I think it's done, right? Pretty much?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's
like
not
I
like you're
said,
gonna be
the-
added or subtracted any hours.
No, you know, like I said, the only time
Yeah.
that I would add more for this meeting, or if something came up that I wasn't prepared to answer, you know, I'd have that information in front of me. You know, like with this one, with the ball fields and stuff, we went through a little discussion about the dates. All of his dates were incorrect. I had him fix the dates that he had, because those dates weren't on the days that he said they were. He didn't have the football information for as far as how the field laid out, so I got that, you know, from him, you know, whereas if there wasn't a park board meeting, I would just be emailing or calling him and saying, trying to figure out how that's going to line up, you know, so that would just be a difference there.
So the redundancy is your time then at that meeting, and then again at this meeting, doing the same thing.
Right.
So the prep time is still there, to your point, Dan.
Have anything that they want to add on it? I guess I will just ask. I mean, I'd like to see it move forward, but I just don't, I'm not hearing a lot. And if staff does have something, I mean, you know, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but please chime in and say something. I'm looking for what's not going to get done in this village. Because if it's going to get done, and if it's already getting done, then it's redundant. So then we're making a decision to keep a board just for keeping a board, which is fine. I personally don't think that that's as needed. I personally don't, but that's just me. But it's not to step on anyone's toes. It's just something serving its useful life, coming to a
Opposed
conclusion.
to doing that, but I'm glad that everyone got to speak
Oh,
their minds
yeah, for sure.
regarding that, but
For sure.
a lot of repeat. I think the longest meetings that we've ever had are probably hometown celebration. There's a lot of planning that goes into that, and ideas that probably take longer, because it's just kind of more of a nonchalant atmosphere when we're having those meetings to be able to lay everything out. And I think maybe the second thing is probably going over fees or budget, but fees, sometimes we do prep fees and we add them, and that could take a little longer. It just depends on how in-depth people want to get. So I guess that stuff would just have to go to here or another board.
Or staff. And then
Or
would
staff,
bring
because
it
they
to
can make a
us.
lot of decisions,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Hey, I have a question with something you just said. And I had asked this at the last meeting, about something that was budgeted for rec, when I thought it should be under park. I thought hometown was done under, isn't hometown done under the rec department?
Actually, Ryan Bailey.
I didn't realize that all that was going through the park. I thought,
It's
Just got the-
budgeted in rec.
Yeah.
okay,
It's budgeted in rec.
but the work you're saying is done at the park, meetings?
There's a lot of discussion about it, especially
didn't-
when they're doing like, saving time here with, say they want, like, just like bidding out a contract, you want 3 different carnivals, and how much are you gonna pay, what's your time?
I see, and I thought rec did all that. I did not realize you guys were doing that.
Well, we don't do it, they bring it up on
Okay.
their.
Yeah, I bring
agenda,
it to them.
And we
Okay,
just,
I'm
we
confused then,
discuss on
okay.
it.
No, it's not, it's a park and rec board, so she has to bring it to the park board. Because it's a park and rec board, but I mean, I don't wanna put you on the spot. Sam, what
No,
can you
that's
not
fine.
get done without the existence of that board?
I'm sorry, I was.
I mean, I can get it done either way. It just depends on what input you want from the board on that.
I'm sorry, I just thought, because when Sarah, was that her name, Sarah? I thought she was doing most of that work, and I just assumed you were doing it
I am.
all.
I am.
Yeah, she
And
does.
if I'm- I
Sam
apologize
is,
for
all they're
being wrong.
saying is that everything goes to that board as an
Okay,
advisory
I
board and
apologize.
then
I
comes to
did
the
not know
village
that.
board.
So I'm,
So Sam is doing all the research and getting all the
Okay.
quotes and doing all that, and then she brings that to park board. And then after a park board moves it
Okay.
forward or whatever, then it
Okay.
comes to this board.
well, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
At the end of the day, if we decide to move this thing forward, it's gonna go through 3 readings, it's gonna go through the process where we can all make sure we are all in agreement, we've got time to discuss that over the next few weeks. I think it makes sense to move forward and see what that would look like, and I would make a motion then that we look at an ordinance to amend portions of chapter 70 of the village ordinances to reflect current administrative and operational practices.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to move forward, with bringing a first reading at the next village board meeting. The one thing I would ask to the people that made the motion and the second, Hector, correct me if I'm wrong, because the makeup of the plan commission is affected, but if we were to get rid of, if we were to eliminate the park board, in the way that the ordinance was written, to also include the change on that plan commission part of the ordinance, that would,
So the changes to
which is
chapter
what,
70.
46-146?
I believe so.
46-146 is the composition of the plan commission.
So it would be to amend portions of chapter 70 and then 46-176? Did you just say? Yeah,
Yep.
and 46-176 of the plan commission.
And it would come through as a first reading.
And it
for
would
both
come
of
through
those.
as a first reading.
Okay, but just making sure for
Beginning,
clarity.
and then it just,
Oh, it doesn't, it's not on there.
yeah.
Second, the changes.
So it's been moved and seconded, we have discussion. Anybody that wants to add anything for discussion?
Just got one clarification. So if we look at it from redundancy and Park and Rec and DPW has it, why do we have to have it go to the planning commission? So we're giving up one board, going to another board. That's,
Planning commission's only, Hector, would you like to give a comment on that? Because he has,
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
he has the comment, it's only there for really big stuff, like let's say all of a sudden someone came forward and said, hey, we gotta completely change the parking lot at Centennial. The planning commission does the planning, zoning,
Right, I get
everything for
that.
the entire village, so we would handle that portion. But like, we're not gonna deal with what playground equipment goes there.
Okay.
Yeah, but Hector will tell you, and I think I kind of alluded to it, but
Yeah.
I'll let.
As I mentioned before, this is the first time this question had come up, so I dug into it. Do we have to have a park board? If we don't have a park board, what do we have to have? And the state statute with regards to plan commission does require that anything involving land use, zoning, go to them for a recommendation. And that's all that the plan commission does ever. But the expectation is that there's a certain level of experience, maybe expertise at the level of the plan commission, which can add insight to any recommendation given to the board.
Got it. Thank you.
Furthermore, for the planning portion of it, just so you know, our engineer is there.
Right.
Our building inspector is there. And it would be different than the park board. Staff would only be, sometimes Ryan Ampman, that's our engineer, will call and say, hey, there's nothing that I need to look at on this agenda. Do I have to be there? Because he's required to by contract, and we'll be like, no. It would be more of an on-call, if needed, type of thing for those, for rec and
I get it.
DPW to say, okay, you do have something on the agenda. I mean, they need to know it themselves, but they don't need to come if we're just looking at a couple of new garages and an extraterritorial. They won't need to come to the meeting, so it will alleviate some of their time. Anybody else with any questions? Rick, did you have any more?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. I'll call the question. Ryan, did you have anything you wanted to say on this?
No, I chimed in. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question for bringing forward the first reading regarding Chapter 70 in the Park Board and the subsequent ordinances that would be affected by the composition of the Plan Commission. But I'm calling the question now. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Hey,
Nay.
That motion is carried, so we'll bring it forward at that next meeting. So now we have library board appointments. We have Tom Trutchell is going to be going to library board as a village trustee appointment. What is Tina's exact name? We have Tina Vogelman, who is, for the first time in a long time, the superintendent of Hartland Lakeside School Board, has notified me, I got her in contact with Andy right away, that she would like to be involved and come and sit on our library board and take the position that's there, that's part of the rules, regulations, and whatever you want to call it, from DPI for the construction of a library board, where they say it should be, for a superintendent or their designee. We've always had a designee, but the superintendent really wants to come and be there after a lot of, I'm just happy that we have that. So that will go there. And then, so that's those two on library. And then we have, I'm saying all three, if you guys want to break them up, you can. We have Trevor DeBoer that's going to, Trevor DeBoer is going to Plan Commission, or Police and Fire Commission. If we want to take all three up, as just stated, we can. If you guys want to break them out one by one, you can. I'm just making those three appointments. Plan Commission isn't until the third week of, Plan Commission isn't until the third week of, the third Monday of the month. So I can utilize next meeting for those appointments. And Park Board does meet next week. There's two people there. But instead of making appointments, if it's going to go this direction, I'm refraining from that for now. But I'll have my appointments next meeting, the other appointments.
I will make an appointment, I will make a motion that we approve the appointments as read.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Tom Trutchell as a trustee to library, Tina Vogelman, superintendent, Hartland Lakeside School District, to library board as superintendent, and Trevor DeBoer as citizen appointment to Police and Fire Commission. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. All right. Now we have Announcements. Oh, sorry. Considering rescheduling the May 25th meeting to the May 26th. Sorry about that.
Right now, the only thing that we do have on the board for it is a review of Ice Age Trail. That gentleman had come in, I think, a couple months ago regarding an area over by the Cottonwood Wayside. That's the only thing on the board right now.
I think that might be the audit presentation too, is it not?
You have that on the meeting after that?
Okay. I guess my opinion, why wouldn't you guys reschedule it? And if there's nothing, we can postpone it.
So that'd be Tuesday, the 26th. We'll move it to the 26th and then cancel it if,
Yeah.
maybe we'll look at it at the next meeting and decide if we're gonna cancel it. For right now, we'll move it, okay. If someone
I'll
wants
make a motion that we move the meeting that is currently scheduled for May 25th to May 26th.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to change the meeting date in May for the second village board meeting from May 25th to May 26th for now. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have announcements.
Library's going well. We are starting our summer reading prep, and our kickoff event is on June 13th. It'll be in Nixon Park. It's a Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
We have our summer registration opening up on Wednesday for residents, Thursday for non-residents. So we're looking forward to getting some people signed up for summer programming, still continuing hometown prep and working through prep for National Night Out. And pickleball is outside, and so far, so good.
All right, Nixon Park baseball field, the fencing is completely up. Take a look at that, it looks pretty good. And the restoration work has been done there too, so Nixon and Bark River Park or softball field has been done. Well 5 rehab work has been completed and VFD has been installed. They're starting to work on well number 4. Stump removals and restoration throughout the village has started. We're getting close to finishing that. We're working on the installation of our bulk filling station and getting that up and running. The building is down and planted right now, so we want to take a drive by that and look at that. We have started on the construction of RFB, the flashing beacon at Maple and Lindenwood. And then we're starting to prep Lameron Park for the new playground unit. So there's been a lot of questions about that coming from Hart Ridge neighborhood because it's been down for a little bit, but they're supposed to be getting in next week to start that installation. So hopefully their schedule stays true.
Awesome.
All right, at the firehouse, some of the things we've been working on, KJ will go through those. We've had a banner month again for calls. Thank you to the storm nights. We ran 23 calls in 24 hours, Tuesday into Wednesday, so it was busy. Other than that, that's about all that's going on down there.
Thank you, Chief.
As some projects that we got going on at the firehouse, as I spoke about before, the new DEA changes that are requiring fire or EMS agencies to now obtain their own license for handling controlled medications from pretty much birth to death of the medication itself. So anything that's a Schedule 2 or 3, so opioids, things like that we use for pain management. We finally got the ability to apply for the license, so I submitted the application last week. So depending on how long it takes, I've heard that some agencies were able to get this application done and approved within a week. Some say it could take up to months. As of right now, from what I heard, about 10 agencies in the state of Wisconsin have gotten their approved applications already. So we're hoping that this goes smoothly and we don't have to worry about any headaches later down the road with the DEA, and then we'll have our own specific license for handling the medication. On top of that, we submitted for our agency, our paramedic licensure for the state of Wisconsin for renewal. So we got that approved along with a new operational plan. A lot of that was just some revision, taking some old verbiage that was in our old ops plan for EMS and submitting updated policies that we had to make sure that everything was up to date on their end and they can go back and review it. So we did get those approved through the DHS. So we're good until 2029. And then lastly, we started our hydro testing for our SCBA bottles. It's a requirement that it has to be done every 5 years. So they get tested, make sure that they don't have any weak fail points in them, and then they get recertified for another 5-year period. These bottles are only good for service for 15 years from new. So we got our first hydro test done, so we'll have another one 5 years from now. But we're breaking them up into 3 sections so we're not out of SCBA bottles during the time they're getting tested. So
I can't believe it's already been 5 years.
I know.
It seems like just yesterday we were in the library talking about.
Exactly. I'm like, wow, 5 years came up way too quick with these, but should have those all done and compliant here by the end of, by I would say middle of May at the latest. We should be all done with the hydro testing. But that's all I got right now.
Awesome,
The only
thank you.
other thing I got, May 5th, they'll be in doing our annual ladder testing, so ground ladders and then the aerials, so that'll be usually about a day it takes them to get those all compliant and that, so.
Kajal, can I just ask a question on that, on the medication thing you were talking? You
Yeah.
said there's 10 agencies that got it. I'm guessing every fire department across the state has to get this now? I'm not.
So any any fire department that has an EMS agency or EMS operational plan. So it all kind of goes based off of, EMS agencies that are your private companies, your fire department based ones, or municipal owned fire departments that offer EMS agencies or EMS services to their communities. So they all have to go through that practice on getting the new DEA certification under their name itself instead of being under a medical director's name. So before it was the medical director would apply for our DEAs or DEA license for our agency, but it would be under their name solely. They're taking that gap out of there, so it reduces a lot of that like tracking of having to go from one person to the agency, from one person to the agency. It's all right, we make the order for it, we pick up the order, and we handle that medication until the death of that medication. So it's one of those that we have to be very crucial on our tracking, monitoring of the medications, making sure that there's no accesses that can't be documented for, things like that. So it pretty much to the point where you open the safe, we need to have a documentation of the safe being open and then when the safe is closed. And then you just track it from the birth to death of it. And then we dispose of it properly through a pharmaceutical waste company that we actually submit it. And we pretty much hand them the medication and say, here's the expired meds. They dispose of it properly from there.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Just a couple quick things. Put in my staff update last week. Judge K from Lake Country Municipal Court did resign his position after court on Friday. So we're working through that process of getting a temporary judge put in place, which should not be a problem. We sold both of our old squad cars on our auction site, just under $11,000 for each of the cars separately. We also completed our PFC interviews. We interviewed 3 candidates for the 1 vacant position, and we moved one of those candidates onto our background investigation, so that's where they're currently working through that process. And then finally, I left the annual report for each of you. That's our paper copy. I wasn't here last board meeting, so I wasn't able to leave it, but I did send that out electronically. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, please let me know at any time. I always like to highlight or like to point you to our highlights. That's kind of a quick recap and the big things that happen throughout the year. And then also towards the end of the annual report talks about our complaints and compliments. We had 2 complaints for the entire year of 2025. And you'll see it's broken down as to how those were adjudicated. And it kind of looks weird because there's a half in there. But there's usually multiple parts to a complaint. And we break it down per part, and then we find what each part is classified as. And 1.5 of those was exonerated, which means whatever they said we did, we did, but it's justified by law and it was appropriate under the circumstances. And then unfounded means what they said is false. It did not occur. Not that we couldn't prove it, that would be not substantiated, but actually unfounded, it's false. On the flip side of that, then you look at the compliments. We received 37 compliments throughout the year, and that was split up amongst a handful of police department-wide thank you letters that they took the time to write for a service that was provided, and then 17 specific different department employees received compliments throughout the year as well. So very spread throughout the entire agency. And that's all I got.
Chief?
This weekend is Park River Bash, right? Yes. Everything's all set for that to kick off Saturday morning? Or it will be, I should say.
Get your duck tickets.
Just get Mother Nature to cooperate.
Tim? I only had that, the duck race and the Park River Bash is this weekend, so a lot of times it's a really good time. The better the weather, the more people tend to be out there. They've had some times where there's really nice weather and it just gets packed down there, so always a good time to check it out. It supports a really good cause. There's people selling duck race tickets and all kinds of fun things, but great thing to bring the community together, so. Now we have with conclusion of announcements, we have a possible motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to the adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved regarding a list of costs submitted by Keller Inc. following an entry into an agreement to provide the needs assessment, preliminary design, budgeting estimate, agriculture and construction management for a fee not to exceed $2,500. After that, we would reconvene into open session to discuss, consider and take possible action only if it's necessary, otherwise we would adjourn. We would need a roll call vote to go into closed session.
I will make a motion that we go into closed session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into closed session. Could you take a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Trustee DeBoer?
Yes.
Trutchell?
Yes?
Pfeiffer? Walschlager?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Hallquist?
Yes.
President Vanderstel?
Yes. With that, that passes. We will go into closed session after a few minutes to get the room turned over. Okay, we're in open session now. And, or we've reconvened in open session. I don't believe, unless a board member says we have work to do yet, I don't believe there's any work that we are going to do from that closed session, so.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. This meeting is adjourned.